doing in order to make these sorts of rental and market rental and below market rental projects viable. So it's very important here to not overpark the project, because even as it is, the viability of this project is marginal.
Thank you. Harold?
I was going to ask some questions, but I do want to make a comment on the parking. In my opinion, I sooner see less parking than more, so I'm not really concerned about the parking at all. I take the bus all the time to my hospital appointments on the 401 on Westminster Highway. The bus is loaded, and it stops right in front of this complex, and then the next stop is at the hospital. They can get this 407 that goes down Gilbert Road, which is only a block around the corner. And if they need to get the Canada Line, they don't even take the bus. They can actually walk to the Canada Line. And I think that's my only concern here is I would have been happier if this would have been densified a little bit more, but I'm quite happy with the project. The question I do have, however, is on number 4, sustainability. It mentions that there's going to be a privately owned low carbon building energy system on the site, and we won't hear about that until the development permit process. Can somebody tell me about that? Because that's, to me, that's key.
Who could answer that?
Through the chair to Councillor Steeves, the applicant is proposing to meet the step-down energy step code requirement by providing an on-site low carbon energy system, which they will retain ownership of.
But what is it? Because as far as I'm concerned, it should be a zero carbon energy system. So and is it going to have natural gas? Because I think we should be banning natural gas in Richmond, and there should be no new buildings built with natural gas. So what is it?
Through the chair to Councillor Day, that level of design has not yet taken place and would take place as part of the development permit, would start to occur through the development permit process and into the building permit process.
Okay, it seems to me that this is big enough to use sewage heat from the Gilbert Road sewage treatment, Gilbert Road sewer. If the city covers the cost between this site and the sewer, there's no reason we can't be looking at district energy along Westminster Highway, because the buildings to the east of this are even older than this. And I remember when it was built way back in the 60s and late 60s, early 70s. I think it was around 68 or so it was built. And it's all going to be redeveloped. And it seems to me this would be a good site for district energy. And we can for geothermal and sewage energy, right beside the Gilbert pipeline or sewage line. The second comment I've got is that 10 years ago we started requesting on flat roof buildings either urban agriculture or green roof or solar, and somehow we stopped asking that. We got one in Steveston. The Tussie Berg put on a green roof with a garden on top of his roof at the corner of Number 1 Road and Chatham Street. We got solar panels on houses along Moncton Street, and then suddenly we don't seem to be asking for it anymore. So what's going to happen? And I raised this at the last issue last week as well. So why aren't we asking for something on the rooftops? And if we have, what's it going to be?
Through the chair to Councillor Steeves, the applicant will explore making partial roof areas accessible through the development permit stage. So we can look at that through the development permit stage.
Okay, I'd like to make a request that in the future that this come forward, like we did with Tussie Bergs. We raised it right at committee, and I sat down with them at my kitchen table and helped them design it, because they'd never done one of these before. So it seems to me that we shouldn't be putting our faith in the development permit stage. We should be getting these cut and dried at the before we go into the rezoning process. However, I will support it, but I sure hope you're able to negotiate no natural gas and some kind of alternative energy program, and maybe like we did at the hearings for Polygon, get some rooftop allotment gardens for the low-end housing that's going to be in the site. The Polygon isn't big enough for all of the units they've got there. but at least a few of them will be able to have their gardens. And I found out recently that Toronto now makes it mandatory for all of Toronto to have rooftop gardens, and I didn't know that. And I think it's something we should be doing.
Okay, Harold, your comments are duly noted, so we have them from there. Thank you. Okay, Joe, did you want to make a comment or? Okay, Chuck.
Yes, I want to ask a question on PLN 42. It's proposed that the transit pass program is going to be adopted and be offered to 100% of rental housing units for a period of 1 year. I want to ask staff, have we done that before? Do we have similar arrangements before in other projects?
Through the chair to Councillor Al, yes, there are multiple projects that do have transit pass programs as part of their transportation demand management strategy.
Okay, good. Now, my comment is that, theoretically, staff may feel that this kind of parking arrangements would be adequate. However, I go through this place every day, and parking on the street is a big problem. So I would rather like staff to have a second look, to take the view on the whole area, whole place, not just at this one particular site. And it's already very bad right now. And I would imagine if you have more buildings, more units in this site, probably it could only make things worse. So I would like to have staff taking a second look.
Okay. I'm just going to make some comments, if I may, as a member of the committee. I like this application. This has given us everything we've asked for, totally everything we've asked for, from low market rental, moderate market rental. All the things we asked for are in here, even with the energy code, the parking amendments, the buses, etc. One of the things, and I'm going to support maybe the recommendation that will come after this, but I think we better, if we've been through it all the time, recall that many of the people that are parking in these people's backyard are those staff members who work in the Nixon Tower who don't want to pay for parking. And they're the ones that are blocking the road, blocking the street, or they're going for a quick appointment or whatever. But I agree that maybe we should be looking at residential parking only in neighborhoods as a concept to be applied. I have no problem with that. But that's primarily what you see in there. Check it at 4 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 in the morning and see who's driving in there. It's people that are walking down the boulevard there by the park in the school to avoid paying for parking. It's sort of like what we had down in Steveston at 1 and Steveston Highway with the Nielsen building, where the staff were parking along number one road, Steveston Highway, etc. But from what I see here, I think a lot of this is going to get ironed out at DP. So the recommendations and the things that we ask to put in here will be discussed and obviously duly noted at that time. So I'm quite happy. It's not every day 330 units of new totally rental units come along in that. So it's a model, and it set the bar a little bit higher than one we've already passed, but I'm not going to criticize that. I'll just keep looking to the future. Okay, Michael, your hand came up.
Great, thank you very much, Chair. Just 2 questions and probably a comment. My first question is, there were 60 pages of opposition letters from the public, and many of them quoted that this development had 274 units, not what we see in the report as 330. Could staff comment on why the discrepancy there?
Through the chair to Wolf, an project included a lower number of units.
Great, thank you for that. The second, I bet those in opposition will probably be in more opposition, knowing that now. The other question I had is, when it comes to the tree map, this development, or whoever created it, did a little bit different than other ones. So I'm a little bit confused. It says that there's 3 trees being saved and they're on the west side with the neighboring property, but I don't see them on page 67. I think that's where they would be marked. Instead, you get these green X's, which they say are stumps. Are you able to clarify where the 3 trees are that are being saved?
Certainly, through the chair to Councillor Wolf. Bear with me a moment while I open up the appropriate page, which I believe you will find on PLN 67, as you indicated. The 3 tree tag numbers that are being retained that are identified as being wholly on this site. Note that there are a number on the neighboring sites. There are 16 that are jointly owned between the current site and the neighboring sites, but the 3 that are identified as entirely being located on the development site are trees number 754, 755, and 763.
Great, thank you. My final comment to the chair is, I think, in addressing 2 things. One is the opposition from the public and what was just discussed on parking issues, and then the tree impact, because we're talking about removing 45 of the 48 trees. And this is an opportunity. It says in the report there's to be no grade changes to the height of land. So that's great for retaining trees because you don't deal with the height change and all that stuff. So if I just flip one more page over, page 68, it shows the eastern area of the development, and that's where the most significant trees are that are about to be removed. They're all in the northeast corner of this property. You can look at it from the road or from a topographical map. And if perhaps the density of market rental, only that part, because I'm really appreciative of the 1-to-1 ratio of the 50-50, but perhaps the market rental could be brought down slightly and that corner could be retained at the existing height with the existing trees in it, because in my mind, most, if not all of those trees are quite healthy. So that was just something. I'm not on the committee. I'm offering that as a solution. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, Councillor Lulu.
Thank you, Worship.
No, keep it going, keep it going.
Thank you through the chair. I'm going to say something a little bit controversial here.
Surprise.
I'm the first person to say I love free parking. I love free parking. It's my favorite. But I also don't think that storage of your personal property on public roadways is something that we need to be saving. That's not what we're here for. What we're here for is to provide homes for people. And we've heard it over and over again, the need for homes for people. And so here's an opportunity to create homes for people. And the challenge that is getting put in front of us is that, what if they park in front of our home? Or do they have enough parking spots at where they're building it? Meanwhile, we've already told staff to allow them to have fewer parking spots, and everyone can figure out where to store their personal property if they need to elsewhere, and so that we can afford and make it affordable to build these low-end market rental, these moderate income rental and market rental, and get more density in the spaces that we want it, which is closer to transit, closer to everything. I think this is giving us a variety of homes in this neighborhood. This is what we're asking for. We want somewhere for our kids and other people to be able to move into and have families and whatever else. And maybe if they get the year of transit pass, they get used to not having a vehicle. There's car share programs so that when they do make their big Costco run, they don't have to own their own car. They can borrow the group car, go to their big Costco run, come back. There's new ways of things getting. Maybe what we should be looking at is making sure that the delivery trucks can go in and pull in and be completely not in a bike lane, not in everybody else's way, that there's a proper spot for all these delivery trucks that are coming. When people in the neighborhood, I know it's a change. I know it's always a change, and it sucks to have more cars parking in front of you. On the other hand, you wouldn't say that the park that's adjacent to your house is only for the people that are adjacent to the park. You wouldn't prevent people from going to the park. But suddenly, because it's a roadway that you're used to leaving your private property on, now you think that it belongs to you and nobody else should park there. I think the public roads and alleys are for everyone. I think the parks are for everyone. I think we're creating a community. We're not trying to create enemies out of each other. We try to work together. What we're trying to do is create a nice community and build onto the existing community. And I think trying to decide, well, someone who's got a single-family home that's already got 4 parking spots and a garage on it, who also wants to park in front of their house, get some sort of special treatment over the new people coming in. I don't know that that's our job to protect that. I think our job is to build neighborhoods, create good spaces for people, create good incentives for people to not be driving at all. I think the way that they're adding extra bicycle space, and like I said, making sure that there's delivery spaces for these things. I think we're running into problems with delivery spaces of all these trucks coming in, leaving their trucks in the middle of a bike lane, and those are the things that are obstructing traffic, and those are the things that aren't turning around well. So that's what we need to look at, how we really want to live. And I will support this.
Harold?
Yeah, I just had a further comment to make. I forgot earlier. When I was talking about district energy, something to store in the back of everybody's mind is when the new hospital is built, it should be on our district energy system. It should have a plant right there, and that would serve the whole area. It would serve the empty parking lot that's across, well, it's got cars in it, but there's a big parking lot across Westminster Highway on the west side, and then there's an old development, and then there's this one. So it seems to me that we should be looking at a DEU area emanating from the hospital. So just a thought for when the hospital is reconstructed.
Okay. All right, Carol?
Yeah, I really do, oops, sorry. I really do feel that we need to protect the rights of these homeowners. And I think there's a school right there, and safety has to be priority 1. So I don't want to wait for a big report about restricting parking across the entire city. I think this is a very special area. Brickhouse Estates has been around for decades, and I think that we need to fast track a requirement that people will need a parking pass to park. Because if they insist on driving their car to go to work at WorkSafe or at the hospital, that's their choice. But if they took transit, they wouldn't have to worry about parking. So I don't think it's right for people to have to every single day have cars parked in front of their house. And that's what's happening right now, and it's going to get worse. So I don't want to make a citywide motion. I'd prefer to get this started. Let's call this the canary in the coal mine and see how it goes in Brickhouse Estates. And then maybe we do implement it citywide. But I think that we should make this a part of this development. I move that.
Is there a seconder? Okay, Councillor Au. Okay, well, I'm not going to support making the motions at the moment for parking, not knowing all the facts and figures that are going on, just because the neighbors jump up and down. I'd hope you'd make the motion to get rid of the cars in front of my place too, because of people parking and all the way from my place to the dike on it. I think it's irresponsible, to be quite frank with you, to become a populace just because somebody has come up with it. They come from 12 homes, 24 people, and we haven't even studied the reason why we would do this. And we know whose cars they are, or possibly, or we don't know whose cars they are. And the traffic study was duly invested on them. So I'm not going to support it. If you want affordable housing or what have you, you got the best plan that has come forward to this date. We got 173 units that are 2 and 3 bedroom, or things that we've asked for. We've got all the things that Ms. Vidalia outlined that where the city is getting. And here we now want to change the thing and change the whole area. I'm sorry, I just cannot support it. Putting a parking restriction in to start with without knowing facts and figures.
Mr. Chairman?
I'm going to ask staff. Mr. Ersic, comment on that before we go around the table?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. With respect, I would discourage committee from attaching a referral to this development because, to the best of my understanding, the existing parking situation actually has nothing to do with this development.
Exactly.
And I think that, attaching an unrelated issue, we do not expect a parking problem for this development, period. And I think that attaching a referral for an unrelated issue to this actual development is problematic. But regarding the comment from Councillor Day regarding a sort of a global referral, I do think a referral is in order to review parking in this area, and I would suggest that perhaps staff could be directed in that referral to look at this neighbourhood first. It's sort of like a pilot project, if you will, for, decor parking. I don't think that we have to analyse and assess parking issues throughout the city to deal with this area, and whatever management tool council decides, if you in fact decide to implement something in this neighbourhood, it would then be portable elsewhere. So it's a long-winded way of saying I really don't think that the referral should be attached to this development rezoning. And if there's a referral coming, yes, we can just look at this area, turn it around fairly quickly. And I actually think it would be a bit of a pilot for broader use throughout the city later.
I can support the motion, a pilot
You're not
project.
on the floor right now. Thank you, Mr. Ersic. Mr. Hobbs, you haven't spoke yet. You're on the floor.
Well, thank you, and through the chair, just with regards to the motion about the parking restriction. I mean, I think Mr. Ersic's comments are pretty much bang on, and I lived in that area, in that subdivision, actually, in the mid to late 80s into the early 90s. And this parking issue around this site is a pre-existing condition. It has existed for a long time, and I don't deny that there are parking issues there. That's true, but it's been there for a long time. And I'd also like staff to just comment on the fact that, or maybe it isn't a fact, but to comment on the bylaw regarding parking restriction and hours when you're parked in front of somebody else's house. I haven't read the bylaw lately, but it's my understanding that if there's a car parked in front of a house, people can phone in and there can be bylaw enforcement. Is that not correct?
I believe it's 4 hours.
I thought it was 3, but.
3? Who can do it?
Through the chair to Councillor Hobbs, yes, that is correct. Those restrictions are identified in the staff report. It is, I believe, 3 hours Monday through Friday during typical business hours.
Sure. So I think that option exists for residents now, and they should take advantage of it if parking is a problem in their block. The other thing I just comment on is I have been in a couple other cities, I'm sure we all have, where there are parking restrictions, and I just offer this comment. It's no panacea. For instance, you have to have certain hours, you have to have cars registered according to the permit. If you have guests coming over to your house for a Christmas party or something in complete off hours, you either have to distinguish between those hours and those days, or you can't have guests park on your road. It's very problematic. And I could name the city that is a problem, but I won't do that. So I don't think it's as simple as it might appear. And the principle of having public streets put aside for specific people to park on, I think is also problematic. So I think enforcement might be part of the solution, and I would support the idea of having a look at it and reviewing it, because there might be other answers that we don't think of on the spur of the moment. But I won't be supporting the motion as it is. Thank you.
All right, there's motions on the floor. You've withdrawn yours?
No, sorry,
Okay.
my hand was still up from,
Councillor Liu?
my hand was still up from before.
From before, okay. I'm going back. All right, Councillor Day, you're on.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, I didn't realize I had to wait for another speaker. Okay, I can ask Councillor Al, who seconded the motion, if he'd be willing to do what Mr. Ersic said, which is look at this as a potential pilot project. And apparently, according to Mr. Ersic, this could come back quite quickly. So I'm prepared to amend the motion to better mirror what Mr. Ursick said, if that is okay with Councillor Al.
You're okay with that? All right, that motion's on the floor. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to call the question on it.
I haven't spoken yet.
You want to speak to the
Yeah,
motion?
right.
Okay, the motion that's on the floor.
Yes, well, I would support a motion. Now, I have nothing against the development itself. I think the plan is good, and I think it's going to meet some needs of the city. However, as I said earlier, I see the problem of parking on the streets getting worse and worse. And I think perhaps it's time for us to address that issue. And if we don't do it now, it will just linger on, and I think it will be forgotten. So I think it's the right time that we should look at the parking problem in the area and explore options. I'm not saying that the permit is the only option, but I'm saying that we need to address that issue now for the people in the neighborhood. And, I would accept Mr. Ursick's proposal. We don't have this as an attachment to the project itself, but, we do it quick and try to solve a problem that's been in existence for many years.
Okay, good. Harold?
Yeah, if there's, I don't support this particular referral because I have the opposite opinion. I've been trying for years to get staff to widen 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th Avenue between Chatham Street and Broadway, put in curb and gutter, and provide parking beside all the single family homes. We're short of parking in Steveston, and that would solve the problem. And if Steveston gets more popular, then we'd pave Bayview Street and allow parking in front of the homes in Bayview. Instead of that, we ended up in Broadway Street. Instead of that, in Broadway Street, the people complained when we want to keep the lane, and they've incorporated the lanes into their backyards. They could have had a lane there and had all their parking in the back lane. And so I would not like to see a Richmond-wide policy. So I'm not going to support this, because I think that some areas like the Steveston area, the parking should be in front of the residential homes.
Okay. All right, seeing none, I'd like to call the question.
No, sorry, can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Yeah, what is the referral that's being made? Because
Okay.
I'm not clear.
The referral, as I see it, is what Mr. Ursick said, to explore the parking, the issue of the parking by the residents and the problems the residents are facing separate from this application, to see what the issues will contain.
And it's separate from the application.
Separate from the application. And it's not necessarily citywide. It's actually, will give us some information that we need.
It's exploratory.
It's
Okay.
exploratory.
Can
So
staff
I'll
read
call the
the referral?
question. All those in favor? Opposed? Harold, you're opposed? I agree, but I'm going to declare myself in favor only because it's exploratory, and I'd like to have that information for elsewhere. Okay, parking is dealt with. Given that we've had good discussion, I'm going to move the recommendation to be put on
Second.
the floor. I got a seconder. Is there any further discussion? We've heard from staff. We've got direction to DP. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary? It's carried. It will go to public hearing. Okay,
It'll
in
go
the
to
next
council.
month. Okay, thank you very much. Good job. Next item is the City of Richmond Senior Strategy 2022 to 32. And the city senior strategy is outlined by the City of Richmond Senior Strategy dated July 25th, 22 from Director of Community Social Development, be adopted. And we've got Claire Adamson here. And Claire, anything to add to an outstanding report?
Nothing to add, Mr. Chair. Staff are available for questions if there are any.
Well, I'm going to lead off. I was at a function the other day too, along with a couple of other councilors, where we were talking, and I appreciate the authenticity that you put in there, and looking with groups and seniors being able to work together and get information from their own communities, and identifying and removing barriers for seniors. You know, it's interesting. seniors being 55 plus, when you get to that stage, we want them to age healthily and what have you. And I think the strategy has really come to fruition. The only criticism I have starting on page 163, and it's tongue in cheek. We're seniors. Harold, take your specs out, get your magnifying glass. Please, please, please make, and I'll bet you there's not one of these pups along here that can read that. Jack's got his glasses down. He's trying to read the fine print. Sorry. But other than that, good job. Okay, but I would ask you actually to blow it out for the public on the website, et cetera. That has to be about a 5 point. And we normally read at 10, 11, and 12.
On your iPad, you can zoom in.
Oh, well, yeah, but I'm reading the document, the original. Yeah,
That's
well,
good.
and many seniors don't have iPads. Okay, any further discussion? Motion to receive? Moved and seconded, all those in favor? Thank you, with thanks. Okay. The next item is the implementation to increase the development notification radius of early notification process. And it's to be moving from 50 to 100 meters from the proposed development, be introduced and given first reading. And to be quite frank with you, I would so move to put it on the floor. We've been wanting this for some time. Seconded? All right, Councillor Hobbs, you have a comment.
Oh, no, I was just seconding it.
Councillor Day, you have a comment. Carol, you're on.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good.
This has been in my radar for the better part of a decade. I can't believe it's taken this long to make this simple change from 50 meters to 100 meters. And so many times I asked that we increase the area because I felt that people outside of the 50 meters would be concerned. And I've actually gone door to door, knocking on people's doors and giving them a copy and finding out that, yes, they did indeed have something to say about a particular development. So I wholeheartedly support this. This should have happened a long time ago. Thank you.
You're welcome. Michael.
Thank you, Chair. Just a quick question to staff, just to get clarification. I'm just a little bit confused. Will there just be a one-time notification, or early notification will come without the meeting information, as we see on the attachment 2, 3, and 4 on page 207, 208, 209, and then when it will go to a specific meeting, will a second notification come out?
Thank you, Councillor Wolf, through the chair. That's correct. Two-step notification process. And what you see
Great.
before you is the examples of that first step.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing further discussion, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Contrary carried. Managers' reports, anything to come up?
No reports.
No reports from, okay. A motion to adjourn?
Move adjournment.
We're adjourned. Thank you very much. Good job.